Here for the booze.
I'm just gonna start streaming. So that's fine. You guys keep that up. That's a good time.
Can I talk?
I wouldn't.
Okay.
It matters.
You understand, Nick, that you wrote it and it's backwards behind you? It's a reverse camera, so you wrote Yampo sucks and it actually reads You understand, Nick, that
Wait, I wrote it backwards on purpose.
well, it didn't work.
And I don't believe.
Are you live from Rikers, Nick?
No, I'm home.
He does look like he's in a prison cell.
It happens to the best of us. Here we go, boys.
Blow it outside, just like I like it.
It's a pretty big fish to fry. It's a pretty big fish to fry. My, it's a pretty big fish to fry. It's a pretty big fish to fry. My. Last weekend I barely thought I'd make it out alive. Told myself I'd take time and give some world a try. I was alive. My.
It is Tuesday, October the 31st. It's Halloween, everybody. Thanks for taking the time. You are checking out the premier sports and beer podcast coming to you with roots in Jersey. But we are in 2 states this evening, possibly a third. We'll hold off and see. It's Lowen Outside, lowenoutside.com. Again, thanks for checking us out. We've got a great show to get to tonight. So let's start.
Why don't you go back home to your street malls and drink your Zimas and Smirnoff Ices? Oh yeah! The greatest beer in all the world!
Somebody from the bar.
Yeah, I like cold beverage, yeah. I like cold beverage, yeah. I like cold beverage, yeah. Cause I'm feeling kind of parched. Stick it in the fridge, stick it in the fridge, stick it in the fridge.
So a little departure from last week. The Mad Dog has disappeared, and we are rocking a Dogfish Head 60-minute IPA. My brother got married about 10 days ago at this point, and this was part of my groomsman gift, along with a nice little carrying case, a nice little wooden 6-pack carrying case, and some other stuff. So toast up to Rudy. Welcome back to America. We almost fell apart while you were gone, but 60-minute IPA for me tonight. Let's go to Parsippany. Nick, good to see you, bud.
Good to see you, too. I got a nice Cricket Hill pumpkin ale.
Sticking with the theme of Halloween.
Yeah, very, very festive.
Are you handing those out to the trick-or-treaters that come to
Yeah, you have to be 12 or older.
Just like Dixie cups.
Yeah, that's a hard and fast rule for you in a number of places.
Yeah, me and Kevin Spacey.
Oof.
Ooh.
Yikes. I don't even want to get into that because I have so many things to say about Kevin Spacey. It's ridiculous. But I will say, did you see that the Family Guy bit that they did like 12 years ago is getting a lot of play? Have you guys seen that?
No.
So there was a bit like literally 10 or 12 years ago, I forget what it was, on Family Guy where Stewie and Brian are talking, and Brian dares him to do it, and he pays him to do it, and he takes off all his clothes and starts running through the mall and goes, "I just escaped from Kevin Spacey's basement."
Oh,
wow.
Boy. They knew.
Getting play all over the internet lately, so it is what it is. Hey, White Man, how are you, bud?
I'm good. Good to be back.
Good to see you.
I'm here for the booze.
That's good.
The little ghost.
Nice visual gag that plays well on a podcast. That's solid.
It plays into his pun game, though.
Are you drinking anything or no?
No, I got a water I'm looking at. Oh, you know what I got? You know what I got?
Yeah,
I got
small baby. That's why you're
You can't
drinking.
wear that shirt and drink water.
I got a coffee mug
That's good.
for Movember, which starts tomorrow.
Are you doing it?
I was I was on the first team, the first Movember team. We came in. We raised more money than any other team in Manhattan in 2007.
And you had a
And,
nice mustache.
We had a party with Playboy Playmates, Miss April and May. And,
November wasn't available.
and November wasn't available yet. But this is my mug, and it's got a little thing for mustaches.
little known fact. Because of that party, that's why the Playboy Playmates started putting their clothes back on. That's actually that was the turn. Hey, college football expert Sean,
Hey, Jeff.
how are you, pal?
I'm doing good. I'm a little surprised you guys didn't do a rebranding since the last time I was on the show.
What do you got cooking tonight?
You know, I'm going to throw you for a loop.
I'm excited to hear it.
It's not a Coors Light.
No,
It's not a Miller Lite.
no.
It's nothing.
Wow.
Nick, should we throw these two clowns off the podcast?
Oh, this is ridiculous.
How are we supposed?
We can't brand ourselves at a beer and podcast without the beer.
Didn't anybody know that I drank Mad Dog 2020 on the air last week? I mean, and you two clowns show up here with nothing.
Yeah, you know, I've probably been on 10 shows. I didn't even know that I was supposed to be drinking a beer on the show. So
The name of the show is Beer Podcast. So that kind of
well, thanks for the heads up.
yeah. Well, you know, it's good. We're 60. You know,
Well, I've been on the show for months, and Sean doesn't have my number saved.
That's true.
That's a good point. All right, let's go. College football. Sean, the rankings hit this evening. I guess take it away. Walk us through here. I had asked, I think it was last week, Nick. Did I ask last week if Notre Dame wins out, do they get in the playoff? And everybody like threw rocks at me, telling me I was insane.
Yeah, I wasn't here to defend you, but I would have defended you.
Where do we stand, Sean?
I would for sure defend you. So let's just quickly run down the list. The first college football playoff rankings came out just about an hour ago from this recording, and number 1 is a little bit of a surprise to some, not to all, Georgia. Number 2, Alabama. Number 3, Notre Dame. Number 4, Clemson. 5, Oklahoma. Number 6 or 7, Penn State. 8, TSU. 9, or TCU rather. 9, Wisconsin. 10, Miami. I think there's a few things that I pulled away from just this initial kind of first pass of the top 10. I think the CFP committee did a pretty decent job of mixing and evaluating, both the resume and the eye test. But I don't think all were necessarily evaluated equally. I really like the message that they sent that scheduling and style points matter by putting Wisconsin and Miami, 2 undefeated teams, at 9 and 10. With quite a few teams with a loss in front of them. And then, the Georgia-Alabama thing is interesting. I'm not as bothered by it because it's going to play itself out in a few weeks. There's still 4 weeks left in the season here for a lot to turn upside down. But I think they largely are in a good spot.
I mean, the undefeated stuff being at the bottom of the top 10, I know you said you kind of get that. But is there any kind of precedent for that? Like, I feel like that's kind of an unprecedented move on their part, isn't it?
Yeah, in year 1 and year 2, I think you saw a lot more of undefeated, just get undefeated and get all the way there. That could still happen for both of those teams, right? Like, it's just as we stand today, their resume just doesn't look as good, and they didn't really beat people in an orderly fashion. I think Miami struggled with a lot. Wisconsin's best win on their schedule right now is like a really bad Nebraska. They haven't really blown anybody out. Neither of those teams have really blown anybody significant out. The teams ahead of them have, and they have losses, but they're good losses. I think I heard an interesting kind of debate on this of like, well, you can evaluate it 2 ways. You can look at it as numbers, or you can look at it as if those 2 teams got in a field, how would it work out? And I could tell you that Wisconsin and Miami wouldn't hold a candle to anybody above them.
You think anybody above them? So you don't think that Miami Notre Dame game is going to matter as much for Notre Dame as it would for Miami then?
I think it matters to Notre Dame. Well, yeah, if Notre Dame loses,
Well, the loser of that game's going to be out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, if Miami can beat them, I mean, they're perched at 10. So if they can beat Notre Dame, does that change that ranking significantly and put them into that playoff conversation?
Sure. I don't remember off the top of my head the remainder of Miami's schedule, but I mean, it's going to come down to an ACC championship at that point. If you have two SEC teams sitting there, you go back and forth. If Georgia, Alabama is a tight game in an SEC championship, do you put them both in? There's going to be a lot of dialogue to come in the next few weeks. I think as it sits today, it's okay. They valued also a lot on head-to-head. You see that by Oklahoma number 5, Ohio State number 6, Penn State number 7. I appreciate that, and I think they did a pretty good job of getting in line. There's just too much time to sit here and kind of argue over. TCU should be 9 and Wisconsin should be 8. I don't think that matters right now.
Is anything outside of the top 4? Like, that's the real question. I mean, maybe the top 6 because you got some flexibility there, but I feel like anything outside of that top 4 is not really a big deal.
I disagree, because when you get into, again, conference championships, you have teams even below Miami, like a Virginia Tech that's also a 7-1. Say they squeak out a ACC championship. Same thing with Iowa State. Like, who knows what could happen to those guys? Now they have 2 losses, so maybe that's a little different, but like, they've got some really quality wins. So you're going to look at it at the end of the day come December 4th and be able to really evaluate that. So I wouldn't say just yet, Jeff, like this week's a stacked week. You've got the Bedlam game of Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's another team that comes up. The Big 12 is going to be weird just because of what Iowa State's done to TCU and Oklahoma, and how that could screw up that championship game, the first one that they have. Go figure. But there's a few out there that could creep their way up. I'm not sold on the fact that 1 through 6 is who you're looking at. Again,
well, let me give you, because we had talked Miami specifically, so let me give you their remaining. Looks like they're remaining 2 on their schedule.
They got the big Virginia Tech game this weekend.
Yeah, they got Virginia Tech this weekend, which goes into kind of what you were saying there. So if Miami knocks them off, Virginia Tech's obviously going to make no more noise.
And that's an instant quality win for Miami too, so that might catapult them forward.
Yeah, I mean, they've got Virginia Tech and then they've got Notre Dame. So I mean, they've got 2 games back to back. Oh, nobody back
belly to belly.
We don't care.
They've got 2 games back to back that are legitimate games. If they can come out of those 2 games 10-0, that's gonna be some serious.
Well, and look at the remainder of Notre Dame's schedule. Notre Dame's got Stanford, Miami, Navy. There might be one more in there.
They've got Wake this week, which is
Wake,
which is not exactly.
Which of the top 10 teams? Which team is most likely to get upset this weekend? Bumped out of the top 10.
Wow.
Probably Miami, right?
Clemson. They play NC State. NC State's been tough. They got rolled by Notre Dame, but I would say out of this week, you're asking me about the top 4 or the top 10? Sorry.
Top 10.
Oklahoma could get surprised by Oklahoma State. They're a good football team. I don't remember who TCU has. Oh, TCU has Texas, so not terribly concerned there. Penn State's got a kind of a rough ride throughout the rest of the season. They've got
Rutgers too.
Michigan.
That's a big one. It's a big one.
Penn State's kind of put in a bad spot. I think at this point, though, Jeff, like, you have to look at every week and this is why I love college football. Every week is do or die. You can't look at it as a scenario of like, oh, well, if we beat these guys, then we lose to these guys. You have to go out and try and win every week. It's not like the NFL where you can be 500 and get in the playoffs. That's just not the case here. So I think every team, no matter what and how they saw this list, as you're looking at it, fans will get upset. It creates dialogue. I also think the Georgia-Alabama thing could be a little bit of a headliner coming out of this committee, just hoping to make a little bit of noise. Notre Dame might be part of that too, but I feel like they're pretty deserving after some quality wins. But every team looks at this, and every coach is telling their kids, don't even bother looking at it, because if you don't do your job on Saturday, it doesn't matter.
Right, you're out.
Yeah.
What were you surprised that Georgia was ahead of Alabama?
No, I think their resume looks better because they have a quality win against Notre Dame, who at the time we didn't think was a quality win, and ends up. It's kind of funny because, like, you look at week 1, week 2, right? The only top 25 win or top 15 win, top 10 win on Alabama's schedule right now is Florida State, who ended up being dog shit.
Just absolute
dog shit. And you can't blame that on a quarterback. You know, JR said this the other day. He's like, I have to imagine they still have more 5-star recruits than Boston College on the field.
Yeah.
Like,
you would
and you got whacked.
Yeah.
So that's a different issue. But then you look at Georgia and it's like, okay, Georgia beat Notre Dame. At the time, who cares? You know, like, not a big deal. But Notre Dame's turned out to be pretty good. They're rolling teams, man. They look damn good against USC. So now that week, oh my God, their defense is incredible. Their running game is fantastic. I think so. It's kind of funny as you look at early wins and how they pan out, and if they mean more or if they mean less based on how that team funnels out. But look, that's where they stand today.
Yeah.
Alabama also has to play Auburn. They have to play LSU. They have to pay, you know, like the strength of their schedules on the back end. So that could easily swap.
I think that's unfair, don't you? To Alabama, I don't know if that's a scheduling thing on their part that they have a little bit more control over, but the fact that they got to wait to the end to play these really important games, you almost don't see who they are until the end of the year.
I don't think that's unfair to Alabama. I mean, that's how they've set up their schedule. They're mad scientists when it comes down to that kind of stuff.
I'm sure.
Hey, can we talk about McElwain for a sec? This guy,
We'll get to him.
Hold on. He's on the run.
This guy faked a death threat.
Hold on. Ooh, hold your roll
We'll
there.
get to it. One thing, you know. Okay, so that's Alabama. They're going to be strong. They're always going to have a heavy favorite. One of the things ESPN was talking about when they announced it was like, you know, if you look at, again, Alabama and Georgia, put them on the field today, Alabama would be a 10-point favorite. So it's like, how do you look at that? And you can't play Vegas into this, but like you do, right? Like that happens all the time in college where a favored team is home and now they're giving points.
It's
like,
just
what?
like they worked so hard to get this committee for this college football playoff. Like maybe they should have put like the overall voice of Vegas in the room as just one of the factors.
Musburger.
Just one of the factors. Like Yampo should be sitting there in the room. Like I wouldn't take Georgia -10. They can't be ranked number 1. What are you fucking crazy?
We have Condoleezza Rice, the athletic director from Arkansas, and a bookie from Vegas.
Yeah. And Jimmy Fat Thumbs from freaking Livingston, New Jersey.
It's kind of true though, right? Like if they're not wrong often, and they know this stuff. I mean,
you know,
it's a funny concept, and it would never happen, but it's brilliant in theory.
I don't understand how that's not like a college major.
Capping.
Yeah, like setting lines should be like you have to go through a rigorous process. You don't even go to class. You just
a nice algorithm you got to use to get these teams in the right spot.
Yeah, you like sit in Vegas for 4 years in like a think tank, and then you get a job right out of college, one of the sports.
Yeah, statistics.
We got a couple of people checking in. JP, big college football fan, checking in. He said that Clemson at 4 bothers him for having beat Auburn and Virginia Tech, and Auburn lost to LSU. And the other thing he said is Ohio State beating Penn State should have put them at 4 despite the Oklahoma loss. You have anything to refute with that, or you think he's kind of in the ballpark? What's your overall?
Clemson doesn't bother me at all because they have 3 top 15 wins. Like their strength of schedule and the teams that they did beat were quality wins. I think their loss was kind of poorly timed with their quarterback going out and is imaginable, I guess, in that situation. It's not a great one because it's Syracuse, but I mean, if you look historically back at, you know, Ohio State didn't have a great loss against Penn State at the time. There's a lot of those teams like Ohio State in the first year or first year, yeah, lost to Virginia Tech week 1 or 2, and bounced back. I think some of these things wash themselves out, and you can take an off loss and weigh more into the quality wins. So Clemson doesn't bother me all that much. Ohio State was in a tough position to start with, just because of all the things that sit in front of them. Georgia, Alabama, I think were an easy lock at 1-2 and whatever way you put them. Ohio State has one quality win. They're kind of similar to Alabama in the same sense that their schedule's garbage. I'm an Ohio State fan. I didn't even watch 5 of those games.
Right. This is not necessary.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to tune in to the first quarter so they can blow some
issue
bullshit team like Rutgers out.
Yeah, my issue with all of what JP's saying, as far as Ohio State should have put them, beating Penn State should have put them at 4. I don't agree with that, because I'm looking at some of these matchups. Like, Ohio State just beat Penn State, so clearly they got to be, it's head to head, and Oklahoma beat Ohio State. So all these teams have one loss, and it comes down to head to head. And Oklahoma went into Ohio State's building and waxed them. I mean, they embarrassed them in their building. I mean, we had that conversation the week after it happened here. I was swinging from Baker Mayfield's jockstrap. I mean, for me, it's too simple.
These hot guys.
When you've got head to head wins, it's gotta count for something. And
yeah, I said that earlier. I mean, I think 5, 6, 7 lay where they are just because of that.
Yeah, I think they did a good job with it.
Yeah, I that doesn't bother me at all. And I think we're going to learn a little bit more about Penn State. I'm not necessarily sure we're going to see the balance of their season work out in, blowout fashion. They've got Michigan State, who had a tough one against Northwestern this past week, but is a decent team. And then I don't remember who their last week is, but they've had a tough stretch of Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State. Like, I'm not convinced that they're just gonna blow everybody else out and then walk through into a playoff situation.
John or Nick, do you see anybody outside of that top 4 of Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame, and Clemson that you think maybe will have the best chance of creeping its way into the playoff that's currently sitting outside of it? We'll start with Nick, and then we'll go to John.
I think if Oklahoma rolls the rest of their season and they win the Big 12 title, I think that they could easily leapfrog one of those teams, especially if Notre Dame loses another game. I think whether it's fair or not, if Notre Dame has 2 losses, they're going to be out no matter what, just because that's how it rolls. But I could see Oklahoma doing it.
I think if they have 2 losses, they could be out, right? I mean, Sean, am I off on that?
I don't think you're going to see a 2 in the way things are stacked now. I do not think you're going to see a 2-loss team in the top 4. No,
I don't see it either. Johnny,
Wisconsin wins out. They're in.
You think Wisconsin? Well, I mean, they're 8-0 right now. So if they win out,
they're in. They win the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, I mean, to win out, they're going to have to beat Ohio State, which would be their quality win, and then they're undefeated. That's a tough argument to make that an undefeated team is going to sit outside of that. Which I think didn't that happen that happened a few times
TCU,
at the BCS, and it happened at TCU or Baylor. Yeah, I don't know if they'll make that.
If you got bad fans, if you got a small fan base, it could happen to you. But Wisconsin's going to make it.
Well, that's where the ugly head of college, sports financial side, rears.
That's when the attorney general has to step in.
Did I miss a Pac-10 team? There's no Pac-10 teams, right? They're garbage.
Crickets.
The Pac-10.
Sean,
we're not talking minor league football.
Sean, you are you're talking and your mouth is moving, but we can't make out anything you're saying. So you might want to take a look at your microphone there.
Isn't it the Pac-12?
I don't know. All these conferences to me are
Pac-12, Pac-10.
I mean, I'm usually sleeping at that time, but
no, but I'm saying they're all like,
Washington State. Yampo was. I was talking to Yampo this week on Monday.
Yampo sucks.
Yeah, Washington State. He was venting to me about Washington State. So I couldn't name you one player on Washington State, but
let's move on.
I don't know. I think while Sean,
we don't know everything on the podcast.
Sean tries to reset his microphone there. We'll kind of pause for a second.
I think his mic fell in some Miller Lite.
he's dragging his mic cable through some banquet beer right now.
The Pac-12 hasn't been good since Lloyd Lake bought Reggie Bush's house in 2005, but
I still can't believe that didn't account for more. Like there was no more information that actually came out about that I feel like it didn't do it. Like he had to give his Heisman back, right?
I think so.
And they got stripped of their their championship, I think.
Which is nonsense.
Oh, we got Sean in Chicago. Sean, what do you got?
You talking Reggie?
Yeah. Like in Reggie Bush. It's good time.
So I do have a funny story about this. I was at USC a few years ago, and they just redid this new like kind of hall, which is their athletics facility. And you walk in, and there's all these Heismans, but it was built with one that used to be there.
Right.
And then it's like there's just a big gaping hole in the entire display. It's like, oh, where's that one? That one must be on tour.
Where's O.J. Simpson and Reggie Bush? Wait, did Simpson ever win a Heisman?
Yeah.
Oh, so you got Simpson and Bush. That's a nice Heisman house.
They had to. I think the Goldman family owns his Heisman, or they sold it.
Leinart too.
He had to give it away. Leinart had to give his back now.
No. I'm just saying he had.
You were talking about the long-standing tradition of guys doing something wrong after their college career and having to give their Heismans back. U.S. tradition of excellence.
There's gonna be a few Wooden Awards going back
in
the near term.
My question to you is, because you said you had gone there, is Bush noticeably absent from everything they have there, or is it just that Heisman part that they like scrubbed from their archives?
I don't remember seeing anything of his likeness in that entire facility.
What do you,
Mark Sanchez?
do you think if Reggie Bush went into the NFL and had a career similar to like what Peterson's had, that it would be different? Because he hasn't had a great NFL career. I mean,
because now he has nothing to identify with. His NFL career wasn't anything special, so he doesn't have a franchise to go back to.
Right.
And at USC, he's unwelcomed because he put himself above the team. I mean, he's not welcome anywhere.
Kim Kardashian's ass.
That's right.
That counts for something.
I think John's right in that, like, it hurt his post-career, right? Like, Matt Leinart goes and walks around USC's campus like a god. Like, they treat him, like gold over there, and he's welcome there anytime. He goes to all the games, like basketball games and shit. But like, you don't see Reggie. You're right. And
Reggie's on the golf.
Like, I'm not going to sign him.
Hey, speaking of villains in California, I just got a news flash that Kevin Spacey is entering into the men's clothing, and if it works out, he's going to get into boys' pants.
Oh God!
Wow! Breaking news.
Well done.
Just flashed on my phone, actually.
From what app is that?
Onion.
It's just in. Gap Kids is following Kevin Spacey on Instagram.
Oh.
Good. Let's get off of college football. These hot guys.
This just in: House of Cards moved to Sprout Network.
It's on Ion.
Nick Jr.
Yeah. Gross. Baseball. Johnny, I think that you are our go-to for the World Series at this point. You have it on right now. Do you have any update whatsoever as to what's going on tonight? Give us the whole lowdown for those that are catching the replay as to where the series stands at recording time.
Okay, so we're Houston leads the series 3-2. 2 games left. We're in LA.
Assuming.
And it's about 65 degrees. A beautiful night in LA. Larry King is sitting front row next to Jason Bateman. Well, they're not sitting next to each other, but they're sitting like on the first row, which is a great first row. I think it's the best first row in baseball. Huge.
Magic
Unbelievable.
I tweeted this the other day, John. I was watching their series. I was watching this series. That back row looks so fucking rich. Like the like unlike any other stadium I've ever seen within camera shot.
Yeah, like those are the people.
Look at how rich those people are.
Those people right there are funding the Russia investigation. They they all funded it, and then they buy Dodgers tickets. But so Corey Seager's at the plate. Rich Hill versus Verlander. Rich Hill. Here's the story with Rich Hill. He throws like 90 miles an hour, but his curveball is one of the best curveballs I've ever seen. And ironically, Rich Hill hasn't made much money throughout his career. He's in his late 30s, and he probably made about $500-600 a year. Was out of baseball for about 2 years. He was playing independent ball in New Jersey, and they told a story the other night that he was in the bullpen. They didn't have bathrooms, so they had to go to the bathroom in buckets. I mean, he was in a bad situation in the minors. And now
Newark Bears?
Sounds like Jersey.
Yeah, I think the Long Island. Oh no, actually, I think it was the Long Island Ducks. So now he's back. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. He signed a big contract. He's making like $15 million a year, and he's been great in the postseason. But Verlander can close it out tonight. I used to live in Detroit. I saw Verlander pitch a bunch in big games, and I've never seen a pitcher in a big game better than Verlander. And since he joined the Astros, he's 9-0 with an ERA right around 1. So he's been unhittable tonight. Right now, 2 outs, first inning. Turner's up.
Well, they need Verlander to go all 9 innings, I think, because that bullpen sucks.
Oh yeah, they're going to need him to go 9 innings,
Yeah,
and then
You know what?
and then Turner just got out. So
I wouldn't be surprised too. Like if Verlander pitches like 7 innings and he pitches well, and like somehow the Dodgers squeak it out in extras, like it would not shock me to see him come back on absolutely no rest and pitch in 7. I mean, we've seen teams do that when he can come in and get like a huge inning out of them in the next game. So I mean, this might not be the last of Verlander if they do.
The thing that's so impressive about Verlander and like a guy like Scherzer, who by the way were both on the same in the same rotation in Detroit, neither of them have ever had Tommy John surgery. They just have they're just built a certain way.
Rubber arms.
Yeah, strong legs. They're just built like
Verlander. Like he heats up as the game goes on. Like he'll start throwing like 94, and then like by the 8th inning he's throwing like 98. Like he just gasses up like as the game goes on.
Yeah, he's the best pitcher I've ever seen, Nick.
Really? You think?
Yeah, I mean, in a big game too. He shows up in big games.
But
How did he and Kershaw not get lined up against each other?
That was on purpose. The Astros didn't pitch Verlander in Game 1. I don't think they wanted to
waste.
I think they wanted to try to take one game in LA, so that we've been seeing that a lot in the postseason where the visiting team's ace pitches in Game 2, and they line
that
up.
didn't used to happen though, right? It used to be 1-1, right?
Yeah, but I thought Verlander pitched Game 6 of the ALCS, so he would have been pitching on short rest if he pitched Game 1. I think that's why they hold him out. No.
I don't know.
I thought that's why Keuchel pitched Game 5 ALCS, so they put him as Game 1.
Well, yeah, Keuchel's their ace. I don't think they want to upset him, but so they're go with Keuchel too. But
I don't know. I mean, you're right though. John, is that we have seen more of that. Strange. Not necessarily. I guess strange is a bad word, but just unconventional way of setting your rotation from the road teams throughout this entire playoff. I don't know whose idea it was first, but it has worked.
It's got to be statistically driven.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's in some big binder right now.
The odds are you're going to lose to Kershaw. So he's one of the best pitchers ever. So you might as well. But also, yeah, Keuchel is their ace. Technically, he's their ace, and Verlander probably won't be on the Astros next year.
You don't think? I mean, I think he's really enjoyed this stint. You just think they won't pony up?
Yeah, I don't think they'll want to pay him. I mean, the biggest mistake that the Cubs made. Verlander was begging to go to Chicago, and I think the Cubs would be playing in the World Series if they went out and got him. But they got complacent, and they stuck with their rotation that was filled with a bunch of 2 starters.
Well, the Mets will probably sign him. Then he'll finally get Tommy John surgery.
Absolutely. But Ray Ramirez was fired, so maybe they'll have a better training staff that will keep the guys healthy. But
can we talk for a second about, because you mentioned the Mets, Nick, can we talk for a second about the guy you hired to be your manager? John?
Oh, Mickey Callaway?
Yeah, what's his deal? He's like
a teddy bear.
Yeah, how is that gonna play in New York? I mean,
I love everyone.
You're a New York guy, man. You know what this town is like. You spent some serious time in Manhattan. Like, as a guy that's gonna be all lovely and cuddly, that's not gonna fly in Queens when they go on like a 4-game skid.
Well, he did do a great job with. Was that for question for me or Nick? Because
For you,
It's for you.
oh, because
guy.
listen, if you look at I think he's a very well liked guy. Number one, number two, they probably didn't have to pay him much because the Mets are the cheapest organization in sports history. And number three, the pitching staff at Cleveland got better every single year that he was there. So I'm sure he got a big recommendation from Francona. But listen, in New York, when you do, if you're not liked, it doesn't matter how good your personality is or what your personality is. You're not gonna win. I was actually watching the press conference today. I don't want to make light of this issue, but the police commissioner that spoke tonight, that guy should be coaching the Giants. I mean, that guy was like in complete control. It was amazing, that guy. First time I heard him speak. But
I think
anyway, back to sports. Mickey Callaway. Who knows, man? If the Mets stay healthy,
oh my God,
they could win 100 games.
Yeah, they could win 162 games.
How is it possible that you're not a Jet fan? Like with this nonsense that comes out of your mouth. Like if they stay healthy, they could.
Well, the mistake was that I became a Mets fan. I actually should be a Yankees fan.
Yeah, that's definitely a mistake.
But I mean, to your point though, is like they blame Terry Collins for a lot of the issues when I think it was more the players that kind of blew it that year. So I don't, I think the managing position is more dependent, obviously, on the player's performance. That's what was important.
And a guy that listens to the GM and with the sabermetrics, these teams are really devaluing the manager position. They're just taking orders from the GM.
It drives me crazy. I mean, I don't know where you stand on. I mean, you two, John and Nick, I know played baseball. Sean, I don't believe you did. So I mean, you guys would have, I guess, more of an intimate take on what a manager can do game in and game out. But I think the fact that these teams are essentially, putting the manager as a middle management position, and they're just driving the statistics down everybody's throat. I mean, we might as well just play rotisserie baseball. I mean,
I agree with you completely.
The one thing I will say is, and I played Division III baseball. Okay, just wanted to keep the dream alive, and I was a role player on the team. But what I will say is that my college coach was a great motivator, and in very close games in conference, we had the swagger, and we made the playoffs every year because this guy really instilled confidence in us. And there's a little bit more to baseball than baseball is so mental that you need that swagger, that confidence from your leader. And if you got a good motivator, you really have an edge.
I'll play devil's advocate. I don't disagree with you, but if you look at the Yankees situation, like Girardi didn't have to do anything. That team
he had to challenge replay that he didn't challenge. There's no
right, but like so you can look at a guy who entire day and just collect a paycheck, and his general manager made that team what it was.
Yeah, but there's game in and game out stuff. I mean, I don't know. Like I look at, like you mentioned Girardi, and I think it's a shame that it ended the way that it did. But you look at the things that he had to deal with. Like he had to deal with that, like iconic players aging out. He had to deal with the A-Rod nonsense, getting suspended for a full year and coming back, and then retiring in the middle. Like that's not an easy thing for any manager. Whether it's a baseball manager or a manager in a corporation, it's not an easy task for anybody to manage those types of personalities. And I think I don't think he ever really got the credit that he deserved for handling it that way. And I think at the end of his tenure here, like people forgot about that, and they got all bent out of shape at the fact that maybe he left a guy in too long, or the nonsense like that.
Why did that all of a sudden become a problem? Because he was the same guy. He got fired from the Marlins for telling the owner of the Marlins, Loria, in a game that I'm the manager and you stay out of what I'm doing. And he got fired for that, right?
Right.
So he's the same guy when he comes to the Yankees. He's a control freak. He wants to control everything. And then all of a sudden, the 11th year, they start having a problem with it. There's more to the story.
No, it's nonsense is what it is.
I think they talked about how when you're managing the veteran players, you can be like that, and it kind of just is fine. But they talked about how he didn't have much of a relationship with the younger players. Like he's not a very personable person. They said he was kind of like just does his business, gets in the office, gets out of the office. And I think that they wanted someone with the younger players, at least, to kind of relate to them and kind of be more of a friend, mentor type player. So I don't know if they felt like he was that person for them.
I want to preface this with that I believe that that's what I believe that what you're saying is what they're interested in. So let's get that right off the bat. But secondly, like, he's not their friend. like think about the coaches that you've had in your life. They weren't your friend. They were your coach. And like there were times where they had to play a friendly role. There were times they had to play a fatherly role. There were times they had to play a dick role. Like as a coach, when you're managing personalities and abilities and juggling rotations of guys, and no matter what sport it is, like, your number one role is to not be their friend. It's just not. And I think it's nonsense that you could look at a professional sports franchise and say, I need you to be more of a friend to Gary Sanchez. Like, fuck you. Like, the guy's won titles with this franchise. If anything, he's teaching them how to be a professional athlete, not taking them out for drinks and strippers like Rick Pitino. I mean, I just think it's nonsense. I think it's unnecessary to do what they did to him. And maybe, look, I could guarantee you that 30 years ago or whatever it was, somebody was sitting in a room when they showed Showalter the door and brought in some jabroni named Joe Torre to manage the team, and was saying the same thing. Showalter had him going on the right track and blah, blah, blah. And then Torre came in and did what Torre did. So I'm not saying that they're not going to bring somebody in that's going to be successful, but I think that the pretense that they got rid of him on speaks to John's point. This is exactly, it's exactly who the guy was, a decade ago.
They are who we thought they were.
I mean, there's just no two ways about it. He didn't change his spots. That's who he is.
In 1995, Joe Girardi was at my Little League dinner 22 years ago, and he was the guest speaker in Marlboro, New Jersey, and he said that his dream job was to be GM of the Chicago Cubs.
He's from here, right?
I don't think that's available.
That one's locked up. John, just to get off the manager talk, because I think it's a conversation that's been happening for a while. To get back to the World Series, I'm a baseball fan. I wouldn't say I'm avid by any means. Have the games that you've watched in this series been some of the craziest games that you've seen in World Series history?
I mean, so crazy that I couldn't even watch the end of the game the other day. I mean, it was on till 1:30. It was just going back and forth. It was like a heavyweight fight.
I can't think of another time where they've gone back and forth like that.
Well, in the past like decade, the best teams have had these dominant bullpens, and the Dodgers have actually had a dominant bullpen until this series. The Houston's weakness is their bullpen, but up until this series, really, in baseball, as long as your starter was able to get you to your bullpen, the game was pretty much in your hands. You were going to win if you're a good team and you're in the playoffs. And now it's like, it's just a complete slugfest. I mean, this is one of the greatest World Series I've seen. I mean, it's very evenly matched. I'm surprised that the Astros have been able to hang in there as well as they have, because nobody's been able to hit the Dodgers bullpen, and they're making Henley Jansen look like John Franco. So, or Henley Jan, whatever that guy's name is. But no, it's really surprising.
I've also never seen a situation where I've turned it off so many times because I thought it was a blowout, and then it just I find out the next day, like, holy shit,
yeah,
they came back.
Totally, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, it's if the Astros don't win tonight, then the Dodgers are going to win.
You think?
Yeah. The baseball season has to end tonight for the Astros.
I don't know.
Where do they go back to Houston? I don't remember where.
No, it stays in LA.
Stays in LA.
The rest of it's in LA.
Bellinger just struck out. And then, here's a story about Bellinger. So Jeter played with Bellinger's dad, Clay. And then Jeter met Cody Bellinger maybe a couple seasons, or maybe this season. And Jeter told Cody that, you must take after your mom, because your dad definitely couldn't hit like that.
I've got one last funny baseball story before we move on. John said he was a Division III baseball player. What he did not tell you was that there are bleachers named after him at Elizabethtown College. He might have paid for them, but they're his.
Yeah, you know, with a donation, anything's possible.
pitcher, outfielder, John Whites.
Good stuff.
Fucking Instagram beefcake.
All right, let's do it.
Who cares?
All right, who cares time? The NFL trade deadline, which is always for me just a complete fat fucking who cares. A lot of moves today. I was incredibly surprised.
This never happens.
It doesn't, right?
It's a little unprecedented, yeah.
So let's do a rapid fire thing. So just one comment on each of these things, and we'll go from there. The Seahawks get Dwayne Brown to shore up their offensive line. Nick, doesn't matter.
No, the one thing I want to point out is that they traded Jeremy Lane right to Houston, right. And then Jeremy Lane failed his physical, so then they had to bring him back and give Houston another pick.
Right. So good times. Good times. Johnny, the 49ers today, they pulled off a trade for Garoppolo, giving up their second round pick. Doesn't matter. Doesn't make sense.
Well, Belichick, I was reading an article today that Belichick said that they were at a point where they had to get rid of him. He's 26. He's been on the team for, 5 years? That financially they couldn't hold on to him next year. And I think Belichick really, really liked Garoppolo. And he was put in his position where he couldn't hang on to him. But he said he got him lined up with a good coach. He specifically said that. So I think Belichick wanted him to get in a good situation. And he found a good situation for him in San Fran.
Let's be fair.
They got a second pick.
Let's be fair. He wanted to get him in a good situation as long as it was in the NFC. Right?
Yeah, you're right.
He's not fucking trading him to New York or to Miami or to Buffalo. Like, he's not doing that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not. So my thing with the Pats here is, like, you know, number one, San Francisco sucks. So the pick is gonna be really high in the second round. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't there interest in Garoppolo for a first round pick during this last draft from, like, Cleveland? Did I make that up?
That was a rumor. Yeah, it was.
It was a rumor, right? I didn't, you know.
It was, yeah.
Whatever.
Who cares?
This one's for you, Nick. The Eagles got your boy, Ajayi.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it doesn't really matter. We have like the worst offense in the league right now.
Yeah, you're pretty bad.
We're probably the worst 4-3 team I've ever seen, so I don't really think it can make us any worse. And at this point, they said that his body is not very healthy, and they're not sure how much longer he's going to last as a running back, so just get rid of him.
Okay, that's good. I'm not quite sure if that's prudent, but it is what it is.
Hey, babe. Miss you. Thinking about you. How about me going to a meeting and doing this before I go?
Who cares?
The Jets did the most Jets thing they could do today. They traded for a cornerback in their already crappy secondary.
Who cares?
Let's see. What else do we got here? The Bills, after trading Sammy Watkins in the preseason, I guess it was, traded.
Who's been terrible, by the way.
Traded for Kelvin Benjamin.
Net zero.
Anyone? Bueller?
Net zero.
And then the last one here for the rapid fire NFL trade deadline. The Browns apparently pulled off a trade, a very rare interdivision trade with the Cincinnati Bengals for AJ McCarron. The Bengals called it in at like $350 or something like that, and the Browns were so excited that they forgot to call it in until a little bit after 4 o'clock, and the league overturned it and said it's not going to go through as a result of it.
What's with the Browns and like getting all these like bad quarterbacks that they're all excited about? They passed up on Carson Wentz and Deshaun Watson, and they drafted Deshaun Kaiser, and now they're all excited about AJ McCarron that they didn't even get.
Yeah, but maybe these quarterbacks aren't that bad. Maybe the Browns are just terrible.
I didn't know AJ McCarron was even in the league still.
Good looking wife though, or girlfriend or whatever it was.
Yeah, God bless.
Brent Musburger.
Brent Musburger loves her. How Browns like it's so Jetsist to trade for a cornerback in a really crappy secondary. How Browns is it to trade for a quarterback in your own division and fail to call the league on time to make it happen? Just yuck.
Who cares?
Johnny, this one's for you.
Nice.
Your New York Knicks are white hot right now. Wins in Cleveland and last night at home against Denver in a back-to-back.
And a belly to belly.
Kristaps Porzingis is averaging just under 30 points per game this year. He's at 29.6 on about 8.3 rebounds per game. Looks like he's taken that step to the next level. John, am I putting on my rose-colored glasses like you do with the Mets every year, or do you see something actually out of the kid that we've been looking for a couple of years now that Melo's gone?
Yeah, I mean, I learned my lesson on the podcast, and I think I said the Knicks would hit the over last year, maybe win 40 games. I said the Mets would win 100, but the thing that I like about the Knicks is that Melo's not on the team anymore, so guys aren't passing up, their assertiveness and passing, being feeling like they were doing less because Melo was there, and I think because Melo's not there, guys are feeling more of a responsibility to play to their actual ability. And I think that as long as they stay healthy with these guys that are playing hard, that want to win, I think that they have a chance to maybe win 30, 35 games.
If you paid attention to our NBA over under episode, you would know that clearly that when the Knicks line was set, I was quick to jump on them and take the over at 30.5. Okay.
What do you like? What do you love about the Knicks this year?
I like
addition by subtraction with Melo.
I like Cantor.
Yeah.
I think Cantor's looked great. I like that they're playing Cantor and Porzingis at the same time. Jarrett Jackson, just a huge pleasant surprise for me. This is all aside from Porzingis, because Porzingis is the stir that is the straw that stirs the drink. If he's going to be a 29.5 and 8 rebound per game guy, if that's who he is, we've won, right? Then you just got to get the pieces around him that complement him. If he's going to be that guy and he's going to play 70 games in a season, the Knicks won that draft. Instead of having the Okafor pick, which I was a huge Okafor guy coming out of Duke. I thought he was going to be transcendent. But Porzingis, if he can be that guy and he can stay healthy, I think that's going to be a huge deal. I also like the kid. I like that he's on the floor. Ntilikina, I'm talking about. I like that when he's on the floor, he doesn't look like he's in over his head. I mean, they're not expecting him to play big minutes, so when he's on the floor, he's looked decent. And
his wingspan is like a 7-footer. I mean, he could stop anybody on defense.
And he's 19. He's freaking 19 years old. And the other pleasant surprise I have was McDermott. I guess I haven't seen much of him play, but that kid can flat out. He sucks on defense, but he can flat out shoot the ball.
Yeah, he played for the Bulls for a little bit. He was a liability, definitely on D. He plays within the flow of the game. He doesn't force things. You got a bunch of guys on that team right now that know their role. They love the game. They love the game. They're listening to the coach. They're playing together, which really can't happen when you have Derrick Rose and you have Carmelo Anthony on your roster. It's funny, Courtney Lee's playing better. Even Tim Hardaway's playing well. You got guys that are just going to the game, going to the gym, and they're like optimistic. They feel part of the team.
But that being said, the over-under at 30.5, it really doesn't make much of a difference. So you and I are talking, but nobody else.
Who cares?
Gives a shit. We've got Jackrabbit was suspended today indefinitely by the Giants because he didn't come back in time from the bye week.
Yeah, McAdoo's going to be gone.
Yeah, he's got no control over that locker room.
Yampo says no. Yampo.
What was Jerry Reese talking about when he said McAdoo's smarter than everybody in the room? I mean, how smart is McAdoo?
I don't know. Yampo says he's staying. Yampo says they're not getting rid of him.
You know what I found with coaches and stuff? Teams always have one type of coach, They wind up fizzling out, and then they want the complete opposite type of coach. Then they fizzle out, and it's like a constant cycle, right? They had Coughlin, disciplinarian guy who was like, an alpha male. They get tired of his act. They want to bring someone who thinks that they know the offense. They bring him in. Then they get tired of him. Now they're going to want someone that is like a disciplinarian, and it's like a constant cycle. Just find the right guy.
Well, the right guy is a lot better with an offensive line. I feel bad for Eli. He's really – they say he's the most overrated football player in the league. I mean, that's ridiculous. With an O-line, Eli is great. And he's never really had a great O-line since O'Hara and who were the other guys from the Super Bowl years.
But what's your take on Jack Rabbit getting suspended indefinitely?
That's just a bad locker room. The other guy was suspended too. Rogers Cromartie.
That's clearly gonna prevent you guys from making that Super Bowl run that I predicted in the beginning.
Hey, look, maybe right before the trade deadline, the guy didn't show up. He wanted to force them to trade him, like Rogers Cromartie wanted out. You got a bad team. Bad things happen. Guys just want out. The morale of the team is gone. Guys start fighting. They're angry with each other. It leads one bad thing leads to another. It's not the first bad thing that's going to happen to this team behind the scenes, and it's definitely not going to be the last.
If they lose this week, they're 1-7. That's unbelievable.
John, you're a big time Giants fan, right? I mean, you live and die with this team week in and week out. You're 1-6 right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I'm emotionally.
You got to be
equipped now to handle with the disappointment. I mean, it's been going on for the last 6-7 years.
You've got to be at the point right now where you've come to terms with it's better for you to lose out.
Oh yeah,
right.
Absolutely. I mean, at this point, what I'm looking forward to is possibly, upsetting the Eagles or beating the Cowboys or the Eagles and eliminating one of them from a postseason position. That gets me excited because I passionately hate both teams. But at this point, I'd rather them just get a high pick and hopefully there's a really good left guard available.
Yeah, you're looking at you want to win against your division rivals because you hate them and you want to beat them every time you play them. But other than that, you want to lose every game, right?
Right. And I want Eli to stay healthy. I don't want Eli to get injured.
Whatever.
Who cares?
Ty Lue, I don't know if you saw this, Nick. Ty Lue says the Cavs just aren't having fun.
Well, I mean, who cares? It's not even November.
They're not having fun.
Who cares?
But I thought
Go ahead.
No, I just thought, coaches and everybody's supposed to have fun. It's supposed to be a fun game. They're not there to get paid.
Right.
It's just like Girardi.
I thought we were just having fun. What happened?
Maybe he should be more of a friend to these players.
You know what? I think that's what Ty Lue should do. Ty Lue should probably be just more of a friend to Derek.
You should take
to the younger guys,
kids out for like a play date or something. Have dinner, have a double date or something.
What do you think, John? What do you think the conversation's like around the dinner table there between Ty Lue and J.R. Smith?
Oh man,
probably stock tips, right?
Yeah, who knows what those two guys are talking about. I mean, all I know is that everybody on that team, aside from if that team didn't have LeBron, they probably win 10 games. I mean, it's sad that roster was put together the way it was. But LeBron's in charge of that roster. I don't know what he's doing. He's more interested in his Sprite ads and
little known fact, Grant Hill drinks Sprite. I don't know if you know that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had Sprite in a drink this week because they didn't have vodka. They didn't have soda, so I got a vodka Sprite, and I couldn't taste the vodka. I mean, Sprite, what a great beverage.
Little known fact, John, you went to a bar and you ordered a Sprite. I don't know if you knew that, but that's what.
Yeah, maybe I did.
Yeah, they were like, "You'll have vodka or Sprite." They're like, "Sprite, no problem."
Oh, I was in South Bend. I was at the Notre Dame game. That's when it happened.
Oh yeah,
they didn't have soda water, so they gave me Sprite. I was very impressed.
That must be
at the general concession stand at Notre Dame where they don't sell booze. You surprised that they didn't have a soda water
and
or a seltzer?
Yeah, anyone want tonic and ice?
He was at a Cracker Barrel in the middle of Indiana. He's like, "I'd like a vodka and Sprite." They're like, "Sprite, no problem, sir." Would you like some granite?
What's the game where you throw the bags and you try to get in the hole?
Cornhole.
Yeah, we kicked some ass in cornhole at the tailgate of some guys from Philadelphia. Just destroyed them.
want you to know that there was a Kevin Spacey joke there that somebody just stepped on. Just throwing that out there.
Oh man,
Just sit with it. All right, whatever.
Who cares?
Johnny, this one goes back to what you were looking for before. Your boy from Florida. Fired.
Yeah, Florida.
Halfway through his third season.
Florida's paying them what, like $15 million to go away or something?
I don't know, Sean.
Something like that. And then he still owes Colorado State $1 million.
$1 million.
He's been paying Colorado State $133,000 like a month or something like that, or six payments annually.
He makes those.
That's a lot of rent.
That wasn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's covered in his deal with Florida, but yes, he has to make those payments.
Was there something I missed? I might not have heard the whole story, but did he really lie about a death threat?
College football guy.
I was wondering what they said they could fire him with cause, and from what I heard that he said he had death threats and he couldn't back up his claim that he did have death threats.
Well, it's probably does it count if it's like on Twitter and some guy like with an egg avatar says I'm going to kill you if you lose?
And it's not Skip Bayless using his other account.
Great show, Skip.
I actually don't know the answer to that, but I know it was on his way out. I mean, this kind of goes back to what you're saying, Nick. Like, there's zero tolerance or accountability. Like, it's just like, okay, you didn't win twice, you got to go because our donors are just getting upset. Like, it's ridiculous. The way that the carousel now works is just wild. College is one thing and it always happens, but like pro is no different now, right? Like teams and schools or whoever you're looking at are totally fine paying large sums of money to get rid of you.
We got a home run for the Astros. George Springer, 1-0.
Except for the Giants. Apparently, according to Yampo, they do not pay coaches if they're not coaching the team. So he thinks that McAdoosh is going to return. I'm not so sure.
I don't know. A 1-win season would be tough.
I would really like
in the biggest market in the world.
I would just really like to be in a job where I was that bad and they were like, listen, we know you have a contract for the next couple of years. We're just going to pay you to not come in and work.
Yeah. Charlie Weiss doesn't get better than that.
He's done it like 4 times.
It's been at least 2.
And he's laughing all the way to the bank.
Well, I think he's finally off Notre Dame's payroll, right? I don't think he's getting a Notre Dame check, but I think
you know who's not off the payroll? Bobby Bonilla on the Mets payroll.
Yeah, well, that was the Madoff thing. That was tied to Madoff.
But it's like it bothers me to an extent that like if you hire a guy, like he hasn't even seen 2-3 recruiting cycles yet.
Yeah,
like he doesn't even have his own guys in.
Right,
and he's gone. I saw a stat the other day that 75+% of FBS student athletes or football players do not end with the same coach they started with.
What percentage? 75?
Over 75%.
Wow. But there's no problem.
I mean, think about it. There's only a handful of guys that have stuck in their spot.
Saban.
Yeah.
At this point, Brian Kelly, right? I mean, how
long? Urban Meyer got run out of town, right?
Nah, he left.
No,
why do these guys why do they fail when they come in? They're getting high paid. They're qualified for the position. Like, why are they failing? You think they're like great motivators. They've been doing it their whole life.
They're not.
What is the reason for their failure? And the SEC is worse than it's ever been.
I can tell you exactly what it is. They're not friendly enough with their players.
Have you ever tried to corral 18-year-old kids
that are entitled and went to school for free?
Yes, I do it every day.
Yeah. That's the problem.
I do it every single day.
So
and nobody pays me $12 million a year.
So how do you do it? What's your advice?
How do I do it?
He just shows college basketball in his classroom.
No, look, realistically, you have to know who you're dealing with. And I don't know if all of these coaches are taking the time to legitimately understand what makes each of their players tick. It's tough with a football roster because it's so large. I didn't coach football. I coached basketball, and I can tell you that I knew every single thing about what all my basketball players, what made them tick, how they were doing in school, what they were interested in, what their families, were like. I don't know that coaches are doing that anymore, and I think that because they're not doing it, because they're always looking for that next job, I think that might be a part of the reason why they don't succeed. Saban's not looking for the next job. So maybe he's dug in a community like that, and he knows everybody and he knows everything. Maybe I'm wrong, but to me, I think
sounds right, though.
By the way, Saban is the next New York Giants coach. Record this episode. He is the next New York Giants coach.
Find it on iTunes. I do think there's a systematic error in I would agree with you, Jeff, that like the goal is to get as high as you can, as quick as you can, because you now know that like you've got a backfall. Like, okay, I'm going to sign once I sign my first big deal. Great. I've got 12, 15, 20 million dollars guaranteed to me. If it doesn't work out, I still get it, and I'll go move on to something else and be an OC for the rest of my career. I've got my money. Like the trajectory is at a different place. Whereas, like, I think you will start to see like some of these larger schools, and LSU's maybe not the best example, but they've done it. Like, get a seasoned coach. Like, get a guy who's been in his position before. If you're going to go into the SEC, like the hot up and comers. You don't know what you're getting. You don't know what Tom Herman is going to like. You think he's going to deliver. You just don't. You don't know, and you could be very well in the same position 2-3 years from now. So unless you're hiring based on like merit and people with real time experience, I think this problem is going to continue.
Well, you're seeing it
across college, across everything.
Yeah, and you see it's not just college football. I mean, you see it in college basketball too. You know, you've had a transition in college basketball where a lot of these programs that were traditionally, you know, 2 to 4 year programs, right, where you had guys that were not the one and done guys. Now these programs are like, well, fuck it, I can't compete if I'm not going to get the one and done guys, and so they don't care anymore. And so it becomes a different scenario. You know, look, everybody kills Krzyzewski because he's the Duke coach, and they love to hate Krzyzewski. But the bottom line is when you talk to guys like a Jay Billis or a Jay Williams, you talk to these guys that played 4 years under him, they speak of him the way that I just talked about, having to know your players. And when you give a coach 4 years with a guy, you should know who they are and you should know what makes them tick, and that's what makes them loyal, and that helps build camaraderie and put a team together. And I feel like in college sports right now, there's less of that going on. I hate John Calipari, but I don't think anybody in sports does it as quickly and successfully as John Calipari does.
That's fair.
Well, he's got it. These players leave after a year.
Yeah,
but on the NFL side, I mean, you're seeing 30-year-old coaches right now.
Right, which is crazy. I mean, come on.
That's wild.
I mean,
Sean McVay looks like, you know, he could be my friend.
He went to Miami of Ohio.
That's what they want. They want you to be his friend, right? Isn't that, I don't know. Whatever. Let's do this.
Hang on, bartender. Give me one more of those scotch and Peptos. I got a case of squirts, but I still want to.
Last call for alcohol. So what you need? One bourbon.
Last call time, boys. Take a look at your news feeds. See if anything popped up along the way. I've got one stupid thing that I'm looking at now. Jason Kidd, he was quoted as saying that Russell Westbrook, quote, he is the Mike Tyson of basketball. When the jump ball goes up, he is coming as Tyson did, getting off the stool. When the bell rings, he's coming for you. Whenever he's on the floor, he plays at one speed, and that's fast and hard. Okay. Jason Kidd, I mean, he's a Hall of Fame all-time guy, but it's a weird quote, I think, to compare him to a guy that bit somebody's ear. Sean, you got anything for last call?
I do. Today is Nick Saban's birthday.
How old is he today?
66.
I thought he was.
And conspiracy theory, throwing it out there. Did the college football playoff just want to fuck with him on his birthday, make him number 2 instead of number 1? Could be. Could be.
All I know is I learned today he's going to be the next Giants head football coach. So we'll see.
You heard it here first.
You know what?
Yeah.
Honestly, John, if they're capable of landing him, and I know he's had ties to that job in the past. Like that's what he's desired to have. If they're capable of landing him, would you, as a Giant fan, fire Reese, fire McAdoo, and then give him total control?
No, you can't give a guy total control. But what I will say is, if you Google this, there are legit articles that Nick Saban had his agent call the Giants after Coughlin left.
Yeah,
2 years ago.
You wouldn't give the guy total control?
No, you can't give him total. That doesn't work. He doesn't earn total
Then
control.
he's not going.
He's not coming, and I don't blame him. I wouldn't go either. Fuck it. Why would you go back to the NFL?
Give him total control, because then you can point the finger at one guy when the ship sinks. You have one guy to blame instead of this pointing fingers.
Right.
The Jets would take him.
I fucking hate Nick Saban. John, what do you got for last call?
Okay, this is for tonight. Okay.
Yeah, love it.
Rich Hill just sprinted to first base on a bunt that went foul. What I notice is when pitchers that are pitching decent games sprint all out to first base, the next inning they give up a run. Right. So it's the bottom of the third and the top of the fourth. Right now the Astros are up 1-0. In the top of the fourth, Rich Hill is going to give up at least one run. Because he sprinted the first in the previous inning.
Rotisserie baseball.
This is why you're a gambling fiend and have issues betting like for innings. Why don't you lay that bet down?
I do. I bet with Connor, and Connor's paid me.
No. Right now, why don't you go onto your little app and put it in?
What are the odds?
There's gonna be a run scored.
There's got to be an in-game bet for that.
What's the line for that,
guys? I'm addicted to winning. I'm not addicted to gambling. Okay,
you're addicted to more than that.
All right. Well, you heard a lot of predictions today on tonight's show.
I'm doing this before I go.
Nick, last call. Anything?
I don't know how long it's going to last, but I'm going to ride this Devils 8-2 start for as long as I can. So I'm pretty hyped.
Hockey's right around the corner. Well, I'm sure we'll find some time to talk about it when Yampo comes back from whatever Savvy B he's drinking tonight. That's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you for taking the time to listen. You can check us out at lowandoutside.com. For those of you that are listening on iTunes, share away, tell a friend. We appreciate it. You can find us on social media, Low Outside Sport. I've been told our Snapchat is lit, but I'm pretty sure it's a lie. And until next time, we'll take it easy this week.
That fucking Instagram beefcake.
Desperandum, dear lady. Across the desert lies the promised land.
See ya.
Goodbye, Mrs. Gloop. Adieu. Auf Wiedersehen. Gesundheit. Farewell.
Fare thee well to you, my own true love. River Mercy, fare thee well. I am bound for California, a place that I know right well. So fare thee well, my own true love. When I return united we will be. It's not the leaving of Liverpool that's grieving me, but my darling, when I